Most people believe that reality is something solid, something fixed, something out there. A world of circumstances that arrive uninvited, governed by chance, luck, or external force. They move through life as passengers of outcomes, reacting to events as though they have no hand in their creation. But what if the opposite is true? What if everything you touch, think, feel, or fear is responding, not to your actions, but to your state of consciousness? What would you think if I told you that the universe is not watching what you do, it is listening to who you are being? That manifestation is not a list of rituals or desires to be performed, but a frequency to be inhabited. That quantum manifestation is not a trick of thought, but the result of deeply coherent inner energy, one that collapses probability into reality through silent observation. Most people are waiting for proof before they believe, but those who manifest know. Belief is the very signal that calls the future into form. If this resonates with something deep in your being, pause now and breathe. Like this video, subscribe for more, and comment, "I am already in alignment." This helps more awakened minds find the truth that's been buried by noise. The great paradox of quantum manifestation is that it works best when the self becomes still. Not because desire is wrong, but because desperation is noise in the field. The more you chase the outcome, the more you affirm it's absent. The more you fight your current reality, the more entangled you become in the identity that created it. But when the observer, the one behind thought, becomes still, a different timeline responds. One of ease, one of coherence, one where outcomes gently flow into your field, as if they had been searching for you all along. In the world of quantum physics, there is no such thing as a passive witness. The mere act of observation changes the observed. In other words, the way you look at something, and more importantly, the state from which you look, shapes what appears before you. You do not see the world as it is. You see it as you are. And your subconscious state, held over time, becomes the filter through which infinite possibilities collapse into one outcome. That is manifestation. Not wishful thinking, but focused being. The ancient sages called this the power of still presence. Neuroscience calls it coherence. Energy healers call it frequency. It is all the same truth. When your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs harmonize, the body becomes a signal. And the field, that invisible sea of quantum potential, responds not to your words, but to your signature. That is why rituals without alignment fail. That is why desire without embodiment delays. Because manifestation is not what you want. It is what you are. Your emotions are not background noise. They are commands. Every time you feel frustration, fear, or lack, you are not only confirming a reality. You are recreating it. Because in this quantum field, frequency is language. And language is creation. If you want to change what appears, you must first shift the vibration that calls it. This is not about pretending. It is not about suppressing. It is about choosing, with full awareness, the emotional tone you wish to invite the universe to echo. The observer effect is not theory. It is a law. The particle becomes a wave when unobserved, but the wave becomes a particle, a thing, a result, the moment attention touches it. So ask yourself, where is your attention? Is it scattered across fears, regrets, and imagined futures? Or is it anchored in presence, infused with trust, and shaped by identity? Because wherever your gaze lands, reality sharpens, and the universe will crystallize in the mirror of your perception. You are not here to control every outcome. You are here to align with the version of you who no longer chases, the one who knows, the one who rests, the one who magnetizes through silent certainty. Because in the quantum field, outcomes are not earned by force. They are permitted by resonance. And when you finally believe without needing, the field responds without resistance. Not because you demanded, but because you remembered. You are already the cause. So what if, from this moment forward, you stopped asking the world to change and changed the observer instead? What if the breakthrough you're seeking is not an external event, but an internal shift in signal? You are not waiting for the universe to give you something. The universe is waiting for you to become the one who receives it, not through perfection, not through performance, but through alignment. Silent, sacred, unshakable alignment. The truth is, energy precedes matter, and consciousness precedes energy. Every physical form you encounter is a delayed echo of a former signal. What you call reality is not a fixed object, but a frozen frequency, and when the signal changes, the structure must follow. This is not just spiritual metaphor, it is the language of quantum systems. The wave becomes a particle. The intangible becomes form, not by chance, but by choice. A choice made not at the surface of thought, but deep within the subconscious field of being. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you chronically hold. In emotion, in identity, in expectation. The field does not respond to what you think during your meditations. It responds to what you embody between them. That is why healing is the first form of manifestation, because the wounded self will always create from fear, from lack, from survival. But the coherent self, the one who has faced their shadow and integrated it, that self is a clear channel, a divine magnet, a vessel for timelines that once seemed unreachable. Within the mind, two forces are always at work: conscious intention and unconscious programming. The conscious mind says, "I want abundance." But if the unconscious is saturated with fear, shame, or self-betrayal, the dominant signal is contradiction. And the field, being neutral and immediate, will always obey the stronger frequency. This is why many feel blocked. Not because they are unworthy, but because they are unaware. They have not yet seen the internal split between what they say and what they signal. To collapse a timeline into being, the mind must be coherent, and the body must agree. Not just in thought, but in nervous system response. When you say you are abundant but feel anxious, the body becomes an amplifier of incoherence. But when breath slows, emotion harmonizes, and thought becomes still, then coherence begins. And in that coherence, the field organizes, events bend, people respond, paths appear. Not because of logic, but because of resonance. Because you became the signal that summons. You are not a beggar at the door of fate. You are the architect of perception. And perception, not events, is the source of experience. A person with gratitude will experience miracles inside scarcity. A person with entitlement will feel punished even in abundance. This is why reality is not universal, it is personal. It bends, not to truth, but to vibration. It is not what happens to you, but who meets the moment that decides the next collapse. Quantum manifestation requires no violence, no force, only clarity. Like tuning a radio to a silent signal, it asks of you one thing: alignment. And alignment is not an effort. It is a remembering. Remembering what you are, who you are, why you came. And in that still remembrance, the field flows. Opportunities arrive unannounced. People speak your desires before you utter them. Doors open as you approach, not because you knocked, but because your presence was the key. Neural coherence is the biological mirror of this spiritual alignment. When thoughts and emotions are in harmony, the brain signals the body, and the body confirms the new state. Over time, this creates an identity, not imagined, but encoded. The more you rehearse that state, the more you feel it, walk it, breathe it, the more the brain installs it as the new baseline, and the body, being obedient, becomes the anchor of the new timeline. This is not fantasy. This is neuroplasticity, in service of destiny. But none of this begins in effort. It begins in stillness. It begins when you stop reacting and start observing, because the observer is not neutral. It is sacred. It is the witness that invites the wave to collapse. And when the observer is pure, detached from fear, uncluttered by time, then the field can reveal its clearest response. That response may look like opportunity, like change, like relief. But beneath it all, it is only one thing, a match to the energy you now hold. So, the question is not, how do I get what I want? The question is, who am I being? And what am I signaling? Because if the answer is clear, the results are inevitable. And if the answer is chaotic, the results will follow suit. The field does not judge. It mirrors. And your reality, with all its mystery and detail, is not proof of fate. It is proof of frequency, proof of the signal you send, even when you speak none at all. Stillness, then, is not passivity. It is mastery. It is not doing nothing. It is doing from alignment, acting from knowing, choosing from coherence. And when you live in that state long enough, the external world cannot help but shift, because it has no power to resist the one who is no longer resisting themselves. The mind, when trained to observe without attachment, becomes a sacred instrument, not of control, but of creation. And in this still observation, a quiet miracle unfolds. The seeker becomes the source. The longing dissolves into being. And life stops arriving as test or trial, and begins to respond as reflection, not of your struggle, but of your settled frequency. This is the secret hidden in plain sight. Reality is not something you chase. It is something you call by the way you hold yourself in silence. There is a deeper current than thought, an undercurrent of felt truth, unspoken yet known. When you align with that current, manifestation becomes less about strategy and more about state. It is not about how many affirmations you speak, but whether you speak them from wholeness or need. For when the body is in lack, the words will echo with contradiction. But when the body rests in trust, every breath becomes a prayer the universe answers with form. Many ask, why hasn't it happened yet? But time is not the metric of manifestation. Frequency is. And most are measuring their lives by clocks, not by coherence. The delay is not punishment. It is a mirror waiting for you to become a new signal, a new tone, a new instrument of intention. When that shift happens, the external world reorients quickly, not because it is responding to your effort, but because it is reflecting your upgrade in identity. The difference between forced manifestation and true quantum creation is the origin of energy. One comes from willpower, which is limited. The other comes from identity, which is infinite. You do not become magnetic by doing more. You become magnetic by becoming less fragmented. When your thoughts no longer argue with your emotions, when your emotions no longer contradict your beliefs, when your beliefs no longer reject your worthiness, then the whole field softens. Then creation becomes a whisper. Emotions are portals, and each carries a timeline hidden inside. Fear opens the door to delay. Shame opens the door to sabotage. But love opens everything. Gratitude collapses the distance between vision and form. Trust magnetizes the unseen with speed and gentleness. This is not sentimental. This is vibrational law, because the universe is not listening for your struggle. It is listening for your signal, and your dominant emotional tone is your true script. The one reality reads. In dreams and altered states, this truth is clearer. You've seen it before, moments when thought and outcome merged instantly, when you simply knew, and it appeared. These were not fantasies. They were windows into the truth. Time is elastic, and the field is obedient to certainty. Your conscious waking state is no different. The only difference is your resistance. When you remove that, the dream becomes life, and the life becomes luminous. The body must be taught how safety feels. For many, this is the missing piece. They affirm abundance, but live in tension. They visualize love, but flinch in vulnerability. The nervous system, trained by past pain, overrides their desire. But healing this is possible. With breath, with awareness, with gentle repetition. As the body is rewired for safety, the field begins to trust the signal, and then, not before, the manifestation arrives, no longer filtered through fear. Your future is not in the distance. It is in the resonance, and resonance is now, always now. If you align now, you shift now. If you delay alignment, you delay reception. That is not punishment. That is precision. The universe is exact, not emotional. It does not reward effort. It reflects frequency. That's why one person can manifest in silence, while another struggles aloud. It is not about volume. It is about vibration. Silence can be the loudest signal of all. Every version of you already exists. The abundant one, the healed one, the loved one. They are not waiting in time. They are waiting in frequency. And the moment you match that state, not imagine it, but live it, the shift occurs. You do not drag the future into the present. You step into the timeline, where it already lives, and that step is not forward. It is inward, into alignment, into identity, into... You were never meant to fight for your future. You were meant to become it. And as you return, breath by breath, to the still observer, as you dissolve the noise of need, of urgency, of self-doubt, you will see that reality was never withholding anything. It was simply waiting for the real you to arrive. The quantum field holds no hierarchy of miracles. To it, a shift in wealth, love, or health requires the same movement, not of matter, but of mind. What appears complex to the logical brain is effortless to the field that responds to vibration. It does not calculate difficulty, it only mirrors alignment. The one who learns to live in that alignment, without needing, without chasing, becomes a portal, not just to change, but to grace. This grace is not a mystical reward. It is the natural outcome of coherence. When your being stops contradicting itself, the universe stops resisting you. That is the secret so many miss. They are not being tested. They are being reflected. And if the reflection feels chaotic, it is not because they are broken. It is because they are broadcasting from a place of fragmentation. But as soon as the inner world is harmonized, the outer world follows like an echo. This is not just law. It is love in motion. The observer is the most powerful force in the universe. Not because it acts, but because it sees. It sees through distortion. It sees through illusion. It does not force, it witnesses. And in that witnessing, it liberates reality from habit. What you call a miracle is simply what happens when presence replaces programming, when awareness interrupts automatic thought and chooses, instead, to rest in truth. A truth that already was. A timeline that always existed, waiting for your gaze to activate it. There is a version of you that never questions your worth, that does not beg the future to come faster, that does not use spiritual tools to fix what is not broken. That version is quiet, clear, and already in union with the field. You do not need to become them. You only need to remember. And remembering is a gentle act, not of adding more, but of subtracting what never belonged. Every false belief you release, every emotion you integrate, reveals more of that original self. The timeline of effortless manifestation does not arrive because you demanded it. It appears when you match its rhythm, and rhythm is not intensity. It is consistency, a slow, steady devotion to the truth of your frequency. The more you live as if it's already done, not to trick the universe, but because you know, the more the timeline must align. This is not arrogance. It is congruence. It is the natural result of no longer waiting for proof before embodying the truth. Embodying the truth means walking like someone who is no longer looking, speaking like someone who has nothing to prove, loving like someone who trusts the return. These are not performances. They are side effects of knowing, and knowing is the final frequency. When you no longer hope, strive, or pretend, and simply know, the universe surrenders its resistance because it sees itself in you. The mirror becomes seamless. The collapse becomes instant. The reason stillness is so powerful is because it contains no argument. When you are still, you do not resist what is. And when resistance dissolves, the past loses its grip, the future loses its chase. All that remains is the present, pure, fertile, malleable, and that is the only place creation ever happens. You do not create from yesterday's wound or tomorrow's fantasy. You create from now, from breath, from state. In spiritual psychology, we speak of the inner child, the wounded shadow, the fragmented self. These are not metaphors, they are frequencies. If left unhealed, they shape your signal. If brought into love, they amplify your clarity. Manifestation is not about bypassing pain, it is about including it in wholeness. The healed self does not reject its past. It transcends it by integrating it. And the more integration, the less contradiction. The less contradiction, the more magnetic your being becomes. Your magnetic field, yes, you have one, extends far beyond your skin. It speaks before you do. It prepares rooms before you arrive. It informs the quantum field of what is safe to send. That's why your internal state is more important than your external performance. You may fool others with words, but the field cannot be deceived. It hears your energy first, and it answers without judgment, always matching your deepest tone. And so, the journey is simple. Become the stillness that sees. Become the coherence that sings. Become the signal that no longer asks the world to change. And in that sacred becoming, manifestation ceases to be an effort. It becomes a breath, a rhythm, a natural unfolding of what has always been waiting. The final portal to true quantum manifestation is surrender, not as defeat, but as alignment with the intelligence that sees beyond what your eyes can reach. Surrender is the absence of inner conflict. It is the stillness of a soul no longer wrestling with time. In this space, you no longer beg the field to deliver. You realize the field is always delivering, but what it brings is determined by who you are when you meet it. Not what you ask, but what you signal. Not what you fear, but what you allow. To allow is to become soft in the presence of power. To know that the universe moves faster in stillness than in struggle. That coherence is the currency of timelines, and inner peace is the passport to new realities. When your nervous system is no longer addicted to fight or flight, the quantum field opens like a flower. And the moment you rest in trust, not conceptually, but biologically, the field interprets that rest as readiness. That is when doors begin to open on their own. Some will ask, but what if it doesn't happen? And that question is the reason it delays. Doubt collapses potential into repetition. Fear recycles familiar timelines. But knowing, deep, felt, silent knowing, pierces through the static. It cuts through uncertainty like a blade of light. The universe does not need reminders. It needs resonance. And the one who walks in resonance no longer waits. They simply prepare, because they understand manifestation is not on its way. It is already here, orbiting their coherence, waiting for permission to land. You are not manifesting things. You are manifesting experiences. And those experiences are shaped not by your effort, but by your embodiment. Do you feel safe having what you've asked for? Can your body hold the vibration of the life you envision? If not, the field will delay, not as punishment, but as wisdom, because what you cannot receive in safety, you will reject in survival. That is why manifestation begins with nervous system calibration, with emotional maturity, with spiritual clarity. The silent observer is the most powerful version of you. Not the one who speaks affirmations through clenched teeth, not the one who visualizes from desperation, but the one who simply watches, unattached, unshaken, unwound. This is not apathy. This is divine detachment, the kind that does not chase outcomes because it understands that outcomes are servants, not sources. That power does not lie in the arrival of form, but in the presence of being. From this place, all things change, not because you made them change, but because you became the version of you they respond to. Reality is relational. It moves in rhythm with your internal architecture. And the moment that architecture stabilizes, the moment your vibration becomes a consistent tone rather than a scattered signal, the field reorganizes. With elegance, with precision, with a kind of grace that makes you laugh through tears. Because you'll realize it was never far. There is no timeline too distant, no dream too large, no healing too late. Only frequencies not yet inhabited. And once you step into the state of the one who already has, already knows, already trusts, the field cannot help but match. Not in theory, but in form, in people, in places, in miracles that arrive without announcement. You will not need to shout your desires into the void. The void will whisper them back to you. Fulfilled, complete, yours. Let this be your new mantra. I do not chase. I align, because alignment is the language the universe speaks fluently. Not anxiety, not striving, but presence. The kind that holds no tension, that rests in truth, that walks as if the world is already rearranged, because energetically it is. When you know this, truly know this, the need to hustle dissolves, and in its place comes a rhythm of receiving. So breathe, drop into the now, feel the vibration of what you've asked for. Not as an outsider reaching for it, but as the one who has already arrived. Your life does not respond to your want. It responds to your assumption. The deeper the assumption, the faster the return. And the truest assumption is made not with the mind, but with the body, with the heart, with the silent, surrendered soul, that no longer asks when, because it knows it is already here. Reality doesn't shift when you force it. It shifts when you observe differently.